When you look at the Hunger Games and it resonates with youth, as a young person watching this video, I want you to realize that is leftist governance. And you're so quick to praise it and laud it. But the Capitol and President Snow, and that is leftist governance. That is totalitarianism. That is big state control over people's lives, and that is liberalism. That is not conservatism. So my wife started reading these books called The Hunger Games. And I don't know how many of you are married, but most of the time the stuff my wife reads is not something that interests me. Let's just leave it at that, so I don't sleep on the couch for a month. But this was different. I liked this. I liked the dystopia kind of feel. But like any good fiction, you sort of project your own worldview onto it, and much was the case here. I don't know how many of you have seen this. They're pretty popular, but the Capitol just seemed like a tyrannical government that we have now. We really do have an elitist, detached, powerful segment of the society that's just out of touch and willing to do and say anything and lie and manipulate, whatever it takes to hold that fabric of power together. An interesting experience reading this fiction. I mean, I think it's meant for young adults, but the books are so well written that I think, adults can certainly enjoy it as well, and I have. It's funny. It's like you think the same things, but you just project them onto your opponents. So as a conservative, when I watch such a movie, all I see left-leaning people who want to grow the state, govern and puppeteer people that they think can't do it. A citizenry that's too weak, not intelligent enough, not competent enough to make decisions like dietary decisions and family decisions and civic decisions, community decisions. But somehow, if you listen to left-leaning people, they have a similar feeling about the right. And this is just a point of constant interest to me. I mean, the right essentially is all about shrinking government, shrinking organized power, and giving more and more power to the individual. And I can just hear the leftists echoing in my ear. What about things like abortion? The right wants to limit freedom when it comes to abortion. I think that's about the only thing they really have to say about the right, I suppose, is abortion. And now you'll hear a lot of people make a straw man case about gay marriage and how people on the right want to limit individual freedom by way of gay marriage, but that's not in any way, shape, or form the conservative argument, so it's just a straw man, so I don't even feel like I need to dignify that. I'm getting kind of tired of conservatives having to dignify complete fictitious cardboard cutout arguments that the left compose as right-wing arguments, so they don't have to deal with actual right-wing arguments. That's frustrating. But as far as the abortion issue, the conservative doesn't have a contradicting worldview because everybody right and left thinks life is precious. At least you want to think they do. The difference is that the left has deluded themselves into thinking that unborn children are alive, which is just absurd. On every level, it can be absurd. And that's just selective detachment. So you can continue to do what you want and not have to feel the moral ramifications for it. Because abortion is so clearly murder. Having laws against murder is something we all can get on board with. And by the way, nobody thinks that having laws against murder is somehow impeding individual freedom or individual liberty. That a conservative Christian wants to just extend that obvious extension to the unborn child. It's not a hypocritical statement when you also say, I care for individual liberty and freedom. The conservative is essentially a lover of liberty. And you cannot have a big state without having a small citizen. And that is not the way the left feels. So it's so interesting that they too connect to movies like this, and somehow they're able to take the right and put them in this tyrannical role or this totalitarian role, when in fact the exact opposite is true of the heart of the conservative. What we want to do is shrink the statist. We want to shrink the elitist power brokers, and we want to enable and empower the individual. I suppose maybe the left does that by erecting corporations as the boogeyman or something, but I think that's such a flimsy argument. Corporations don't have a police to kick down your door. Corporations can't control you. You actually control corporations by what you buy or don't buy. I suppose that's just the flame that the left needs to continue to engine this delusion. The whole point of this video is when you look at the Hunger Games and it resonates with youth. As a young person watching this video, I want you to realize that is leftist governance. And you're so quick to praise it and laud it. But the Capitol and President Snow, and that is leftist governance. That is totalitarianism. That is big state, fascist control over people's lives, and that is liberalism. That is not conservatism. It's important to make that distinction because you're not hearing it anywhere. The left has literally deluded themselves into sort of taking the high road no matter which way you go. Because you can't tell a story, you can't tell a compelling story without praising the individual. Nobody wants to see President Snow and the Capitol win. And yet in policy, that is exactly the leftist aim, is to grow government, to massively grow government so that they can engineer the lives of individuals. And the reasons are countless. They have all kinds of good intentions, and they have all kinds of reasons that they think are worthy of all the deceit and destruction that they wield, but they're wrong. And anything that tries to weaken the individual and empower the government, the state, is wrong and depicted beautifully, I think, in the Hunger Games series. Thanks for listening.